I literally just survived COVID and was begging God to let me live.
Mm.
And now the least of my worries should be my hair, right? But I was so distraught over it. I said, imagine how many people that look like me are suffering, with hair loss every single day. And I said, we really need to share these products with people. Prior to my hair shedding and breaking and falling out during COVID, my hair was relaxed. And once that happened, and I saw the power of the natural products and the ingredients, and my hair restored, I said, oh, I'm never putting chemicals in my hair again.
Hello and welcome to Shades and Layers. I'm your host, Kutwa Nuskosana Richie. Today, my guest is New York-based beauty founder Shaina Rainford. The story of Shaina's brand, Bask and Lather, centers family, and she will tell us how she's built and shaped the brand since receiving the formula for their viral hair oil elixir from her mother. Her teenage son is now preparing to continue the legacy. Bask and Lather is now a direct-to-consumer operation that moved from being a homemade hair oil to a customer favorite, selling hundreds of thousands of units. Shaina's entrepreneurial journey started during COVID. The nurse practitioner got seriously ill, and while she was recovering, her hair started to fall out. Her next step was to call her mom, and the rest is history. Shaina has since quit her job as a nurse practitioner and is working full-time at Bask and Lather while also investing in real estate. So without further ado, let's get into her story. Let's start with an introduction of yourself, who you are, what you do, your company, and its greater mission.
Awesome. Yes, my name is Shaina Rainford. I'm the founder and CEO of Bask and Lather Co. I'm also a board certified nurse practitioner, which is what I did prior to founding the company. And our mission at Bask and Lather is to help men, women, and children all over the world grow and keep hair that they love.
Great. And what brought you into this mission?
Yeah, so since I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to go into a career, right, that would help people. So I remember reading Ben Carson's autobiography for
Oh,
kids,
cool.
and I was on a mission to go to medical school. And then when I was in high school, I actually had my son
Mm-hmm.
Jaden, now almost 17. And then, I weighed the pros and cons of medical school versus some other options, and I decided to become a nurse
Right.
practitioner. And while I was practicing as a nurse practitioner, COVID happened. And during COVID, I was moved from office-based practice to the
Mm-hmm.
hospital. And I acquired COVID, became really, really, really sick to the point that I ended up in the back of an
Oh
ambulance
my
on a non-rebreather
goodness.
mask. Yep. And I was just praying to God to let me live to raise my
Oh,
children.
wow.
A few weeks later, I started to lose my hair. The texture changed, it started to shed and break, and nothing I tried was helping. I tried like protein mask and emergency treatments and salon things, and nothing was helping. And then I remember I said, Mom, the two oils that she was making for my sister, I said, can you make me some? And I started using it, and my hair reverted back to normal almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So, backtrack about 5 years prior to that, my youngest sister.
Aha.
Yep, she lost all of her hair because she was misdiagnosed. She had flaking and crusting on her scalp, and my mom took her to the primary care doctor, and they said, "Oh, that's dandruff." And they treated her with dandruff shampoos. Got worse and worse and worse, and then her hair started to fall
Mm.
out in big. By the time she was properly diagnosed by a Black female dermatologist with ringworm, her hair was almost completely gone. And when she was treated with the antifungals, her hair fell out
Oh my
completely,
goodness.
right?
Yeah. They're quite strong. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yep, she was going to school with the cap, and her hair was not growing back after it fell out, and she was treated even after the infection cleared. So my mom took her to all types of specialists from New York to New Jersey to Pennsylvania, and they did scalp analysis and all of these assessments. And they said they didn't see any activity at the follicular level, so they weren't sure that her hair was ever going to grow back. And my mom was distraught, right? So she started doing research on natural and efficacious ingredients that promote hair growth, right? Because my sister was younger.
Right.
It's not like you can go pick a hair growth treatment from the store, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of them contain chemicals. And she whipped up a concoction, which is now our best-selling number one product, that
Love
scalp
it.
stimulating. And it worked. Her hair started to grow back. But when it was growing in initially, it was like a peach fuzz and it was fine, like very thin.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom did some research about natural ingredients that help to also add thickness and volume to hair. And that's when she learned about Jamaican black castor oil. And she created a blend that doesn't have the harsh roasted castor bean smell and
Right.
wasn't as
Yeah, yeah,
thick.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's now our hair elixir. And my sister's hair grew from bald to way down to her waist, and she has 4C
Wow.
hair.
That's pretty amazing. So mom sounds like magic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, has she always been somebody who experiments with things in her kitchen? I mean,
Yep.
how,
She was
you know,
desperate.
she was desperate. Okay, yeah, you do find a solution when you're desperate, especially for your kids, right?
Yep.
But before your hair fell out due to COVID, what were you doing with your hair? How were you styling it? How were you caring for it?
I would have sometime, well, this is before the silk press
Mm-hmm.
era. So I would have a lot of washing sets, or I would have
Mm-hmm.
braids. Sometimes I would have sew-ins. I always alternate between protective styles and wearing my hair
Mm-hmm.
out just so that I'm not applying too much heat and damaging my hair. And also prior to my hair shedding and breaking and falling out during COVID, my hair was relaxed.
Right.
And once that happened, and I saw the power of the natural products and the ingredients, and my hair restored, I said, "Oh, I'm never putting chemicals in my hair again." So
Yeah.
that was also my journey when I was able to regrow my hair back.
Okay. Oh, that's lovely. So you start using your mom's formula and you see how it works well. How do you move from making it for yourself to taking it to the lab?
Yeah, so this was so I had COVID the end of March, early April 2020. And I remember just feeling like so depressed and embarrassed and sad. And I remember saying to my mom, like, if I'm young and I'm experiencing this hair loss, and mind you, I literally just survived COVID and was begging
Mm.
God to let me live. And now the least of my worries should be my hair, right? But I was so distraught over it. I said, imagine how many people that look like me are suffering, with hair loss every single day. And I said, we really need to share these products with people. So over the summer and early fall, I began to like share my before and after pictures and my sisters on my personal social media. And people were like, oh, what did you use for that? What did you use for that? And they just started buying the oil from us. The products had no labels. People weren't even asking what's in it. They were just like, I want it. And people were cash apping me, drop-offs. It was crazy.
Right.
And then fast forward to like October, November, I was like, we really need to make this a real actual business. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what we did. So we set up a website and designed labels and formed a LLC and got an EIN number and did all of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in December 18th, 2020, we officially launched Bask and Lather
Wow.
Co. And 3 months of launching. So from December 2020 to March 2021, the business grew so quickly that in 1 month, it was replacing my annual salary
No
as a nurse
ways.
practitioner. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And just 3 months. So from December to
Yeah.
March.
I mean, what do you accredit that to? Is it social media? What was going on? Yeah.
Absolutely social media. And also, it wasn't just that it wasn't like I was one day, oh, I want to make money looking for a side hustle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It was an overall experience that was near and dear to my heart and my family. And really sharing that story and that testimony with people online, it created an affinity for the
Right.
brand to
Right.
people, right? We weren't just making things to sell it. We were, it was really a solution that was created out of desperation. People were really drawn in by the story, and our following grew significantly. It just
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah. Were you sad to leave nursing or this was, yeah.
No, because I still get to help
Right.
people,
Right.
right? So that's why I mentioned that, since I was a
Mm.
kid, right, I always wanted, it was always my desire and passion to be in a career field where I got to help people. And, still to this day, right, I'm able to help people literally all over the world that I'll never
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
But every single minute or day, they're sending us amazing testimonies about how much our products have changed their
Oh,
life.
that's lovely. And what kind of volumes were you moving when you decided to switch to full time onto the business?
So we were doing about six figures a month. So it was March 2021 where it was the first month that the actual our Shopify revenue was more than my year's salary as a nurse
Mm-hmm.
practitioner. And I remember saying to myself, I should see if at work I could go part-time because it was difficult. I was working all day, making products, restocking the website, selling out so quickly. It was tough. And I remember saying, oh, I should see if I go part-time. And then I remember hearing a little voice in the back of my head saying, no, you should quit. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have a mortgage, I have a family, I have student loans,
Right.
right? And right after that, so this is March, right? I went on my birthday vacation that year. And the day I came back from vacation to my job that I had already been at for about 3 years prior to this, I remember it was a new supervisor that took over, and she was also a nurse practitioner. She came and wrote me up. She came to my office and wrote me up for being late on
Oh,
a
wow.
PPD, right? So contact with patients, you have to get this annual testing to make sure you weren't exposed to tuberculosis. My old supervisor, who was amazing, would always remind us, send us an email, make sure you go to employee health. This one, nope, I came back from vacation, she wrote me up.
Oh, wow. Charming.
So she did that. And then again, a few weeks later, a patient came about 45 minutes late for their 30-minute appointment slot. And I said, I can't see them. I have to get from Westchester down to the Bronx to pick my
Right.
daughter up from
Mm-hmm.
daycare really late. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
6 o'clock. And a few days after that, she wrote me up again for refusing to see a patient. And after that second write up, I said, you know what? This is God telling
Twice?
me to move. And yep. And I said, third charm is what? You're going to terminate me. And the same job that I'm trying to hold on to,
Right.
I won't have anyway. It's already impeding my business's growth because I'm dedicating all of this time
Sure.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did was I was getting ready to close on an investment property at the end of May.
Mm-hmm.
I used 9 days of vacation, went on vacation while I was had my closing scheduled. And the last day of my vacation, sent an email to administration and
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm resigning effective immediately. All of my items are already in my office and I will not be returning. And once I did that, my business tripled in revenue the following month.
Oh, well.
So I left June, it was the first Monday of June, 2021. And that month in June, we hit 300K a month in revenue.
Well,
On
congratulations. That's amazing. That is great, great, great. It's Shades and Layers, and my guest today is beauty founder Shaina Rainford, sharing the story of her brand Bask and Lather. Let's find out how she moved from formulating in her kitchen to full-scale operation and also being in total control of her supply chain. I'm quite sure that now you have a manufacturing partner. So how did you find this partner and how was the process of scaling up?
So while we were scaling, it really became essential to be able to manufacture, right? Because customers were becoming frustrated that now they love these products so much and then they have to fight online to get them when they restock on Fridays. So I began looking for manufacturers and I came across a Black-owned manufacturer that had lower MOQs, right? Because
Of
at
course,
that time we were doing well, but not enough, right, to compete for line space at the big manufacturers, right, with other brands. And they took us on and we actually became their biggest client. And now we're using sometimes more than one manufacturer to keep up with the volume as we're scaling.
Wonderful. Black-owned manufacturing. I'm curious. Are there quite a few in the New York area?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. Okay. So what are your hero ingredients and what's the sourcing process like for you?
So our hero ingredients are typically just natural oils, things that can be found naturally in the earth that promote good results. So one thing we try to steer clear of is using fragrances. So even for a natural aroma, we use essential oils, right? But those essential oils all have a purpose. So rosemary, peppermint,
Yeah.
and then other oils like castor oil, grapeseed oil. Everything has a benefit, right, down to the molecular level. So we do a lot of research, and I am the main person who's formulating moving forward and have significantly expanded the product line.
And do you still consider yourself a small batch or you're way beyond that now?
Oh, no. No, we're producing millions and millions of units across our SKUs a
That is so
year.
amazing. And what has been the advantage of staying an online direct to customer company?
So we're in control of our distribution 100%, right? So when companies, distributors, or individuals, wholesale accounts now come to us and they want to purchase from us, we don't allow them to sell online because we put so much into our organic efforts. Why would I let you sell my products online and then people are Googling Bask and Lather because they saw our Instagram post, but you're getting the sale? So we do have a few hundred storefronts that sell our products, and we have some distributors there, but we're in control of our supply chain, and we have that in our agreements. Also, profitability. We have very good, very healthy profit margins online, and which allows us to remain 100%. I have 100% ownership. We don't need investors. We have significant cash flow, and we have zero debt.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. Your story is just incredible. And how big is your team now? How are they distributed around the city of New York?
So we're all office based. We have our headquarters, which is in Yonkers. So we have a team of 14,
Oh, nice.
which includes marketing, social media, administration, logistics, business support. And my son, Jaden, actually, who's about to be 17, is really leading our marketing efforts and really helping us to scale on the paid side. So he works closely with my team and our agency. Very, very smart little boy.
Right. Oh, that's great. I'm glad it's staying in the family, which brings me to this whole thing of building a legacy business. So you have your son on board as part of the team. What other business practices or activities would you say they are aimed at, legacy building?
I'm very careful with spending. And that way we can maintain 100% ownership and scale and have cash flow. I think those are the most important things because when you kind of get ahead of
Mm.
yourself, you end up, a lot of businesses, sometimes they have to go in the negative to grow. And what happens is you lose bits and pieces of that ownership. And now it's not you making the decisions, right? You have to now consult with this person and that person that also has an interest in your business to be able to move things forward.
Right. And how do you describe your brand identity? What is it? How do you speak about it?
We're bold. We're the homegirl, the sister. We engage with our community in a way that it's real, it's raw. So, a lot of times we're laughing, right? Like if you go to our social, you'll see things that are just hilarious and people are having a good time and laughing. Other times we're, just really being vulnerable with customers. They're sharing their hair journeys and their vulnerabilities. We're sharing ours. It's just a fun place. We really, from the beginning, have been all about community.
Right. And what community activities, like what kind of activations do people expect from you?
So this year, one thing that we lacked in the past few years is really being on the ground with customers. And whenever we are, right, 1 or 2 times a year, we would go to like events and we would have these long lines of people backed up. And I'm like, oh, people know us offline. Wow. And everyone's like, oh my God, Bask and Lather. And it's just so crazy to me, right? Because we're in the digital space and we never really get to see our customers one on one. So when we do random events here and there and we see all these people just so excited to see us, it's just, it's always mind blowing. But this year, one of our big things that we set as a goal was to really make sure that we're everywhere. So we're doing all the events this year. You will see Bask and Lather everywhere. We will be on the ground having fun, doing activations, just having a lot of fun. Even every year we have an annual anniversary party in December. And typically what we do is invite customers who live within the tri-state area and we'll have brunch, we'll have panels, we'll dance, have dinner. So again, lots of things that are all about community. And this December makes our 5-year anniversary. So we'll be planning something really special.
Okay, great. And do you intend to remain an online brand or do you have ambitions of having a bricks and mortar store?
We definitely will go into retail. Big retailers have like reached out to distributors that sell to the stores, like, oh, do you carry Bask and Lather? And I actually had a Black distributor who's down in, I think he was in Charlotte, had me fly down there just to tell me if you're profitable online, do not go into stores. And this was 2 years ago now. And eventually that will be the goal. I would definitely say in about 2 years, but I truly felt that for right now, we still have more space to scale and grow online. Right. And when you do go into retail, you want the ball to kind of be in your court. And it's never really in your court in retail, right? Because you lose a lot of control. But we want to go with a super strong presence, right? We want people to go to the stores and sell out the products and show the power of the brand, right? And what we can bring to the stores. And we just still have space to grow online.
Yeah. Great. And do you have any reflections on current rollback on all these DEI policies? Because there are a lot of Black-owned beauty that went into retail and were promoted. What has been your reflection on what is happening to not competitors, but people who are adjacent in
Yeah, I
this
think it's really,
industry?
really unfortunate because the Black dollar is very, very powerful. So I think it's an unfortunate situation. But, each week we're seeing huge, huge retailers that were the go-to losing billions of dollars. And I think that the outcome of that situation is even proving more how valuable we are, right? So like John 3:17 in the Bible says, you may not understand now what I'm doing, but later you'll understand. And I think that's kind of one of those situations where now we're showing retailers we have the power, you don't.
And I've heard some of the beauty founders criticizing Black consumers that they don't spend money on Black-owned products. But I mean, clearly you have a different experience.
Oh, no. Yeah, I have customers who will ask, is this Black owned before I
Yeah.
buy? They want to spend their money on Black owned
Yeah,
products.
yeah. That's great. And you source your products. I'm not sure, but do you source in the US or do you import? Are the current tariffs going to affect you in any way? And how are you gearing up for that?
So all of our products, we own the formulations and they're manufactured here in the US. However, there are certain oils, especially that, you have to import from overseas. I'm not a worrier. Like Worry is actually a
Yeah.
sin. So, we'll deal with it when the time comes, but it's going to affect everyone, no matter, it's going to affect the people who are manufacturing overseas first, because they're going to have the direct impacts. For us, it's going to be that the prices of our packaging and bottles are going to go up. And eventually it will, affect us, but it's not something that quite in a frenzy for right now. And we have very healthy profit margins, so we can not really be too affected or have to worry so much about passing additional cost over to the
Yeah. And I
customer.
mentioned this because your main thing is, affordability and accessibility. So what is affordable? How do you define that? And how do you know when you're staying within that affordable range?
So whenever we're pricing something, right, I'm always looking at what would I pay for this and what is the value proposition of this product. So for example, our scalp stimulator oil, which is a 2-ounce bottle that lasts for a month, but it looks small, right? So people may say, oh, this is $20, but it's a very powerful formula that's going to have you with the healthiest hair you've ever had,
Hmm.
right? I spend $20 ordering junk food from Uber Eats, right?
Right, right.
And it'll
Yeah.
be meal by the time you pay delivery fees, tax, and everything, tip. It's $20 and you're
Sure.
hungry again in
Yeah.
3 hours,
Yeah.
right? So I always think of myself as a consumer, and I also think of the value proposition of the product, and just making sure there's a healthy profit margin so that way we can continue to grow and
Yeah.
scale.
Hey, it's Shades and Layers, and up next, Shaina Rainford tells us about her 3 proudest moments as a beauty brand founder and reflects on DEI rollbacks at big retail, as well as her plans for the future of Bask and Lather. What are your ambitions, your dreams, both as an organizational leader and for the product range that you're offering right now?
So I would say my ultimate goal is to continue to grow and scale my team. I have a team of amazing people who are also very passionate about the brand and contributing to its growth. Our goal is definitely to continue to really just scale globally and put our footprint everywhere and just be a household name. When people think of either, I'm suffering with hair loss or I want to grow my hair further, I want them to
Mhm.
think Bask and Lather.
Who have been some of your mentors in this industry or just in general?
So typically I'll look at just Black leaders in general of other beauty brands or really any brands, and I'll watch their interviews or listen to their podcasts and see what their journey is like, right? Another reason I decided not to jump into retail is seeing some other direct competitors and indirect competitors who will just straight up tell you they either did it at the wrong time or they did too much retail all at once and it really
Hmm.
had a
Hmm.
negative effect on their business, right? A big Black owned brand, did mass retail with some of their products and it had a very negative effect.
Hmm.
Luckily they were able to rebuild. I
Yeah.
love just seeing them win, right? They're doing a great job, but with the different beauty products. So, those people just being vulnerable and really sharing their stories is kind of what makes I feel like there's no perfect time for anything. I always just kind of listen to when
Yeah.
God's speaking to me, when he tells me to move,
Hmm.
I move.
Hmm.
When he tells me to slow down, I slow down. And when the time is right, we'll choose the right retail partner for us and, those types of things. But I think that has been one very useful thing I've gotten indirect guidance from some other beauty brand owners.
Right. And any books that you'd like to mention that have been influential in your life? Any business
Oh
books?
yeah. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad before I started Bask and Lather.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things that really shifted my mindset to be more entrepreneurial.
Hmm.
Some books I have over here that I've been reading are A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton Macchio, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, Tax Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright, and Does This Make My Assets Look Fat?
That's wonderful. That's great. So, speaking of books, if you had to write your own a memoir, what would you call it and why?
What would I call it? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I
Have
have to
you
think
read
about
any
that
memoirs
one.
that you've enjoyed that you think, yeah, I'd like to tell my story like that?
I feel like Rich Dad
Yeah.
Poor Dad is kind of a memoir, as he's really reflecting from childhood through life and how all of the different events and things he was exposed to and taught really shaped him. I would say that's one of the most inspirational memoirs, if you want to call it that I've read.
Yeah. Yeah. If you had to invite a famous Black woman to dinner, living or dead, who would it be?
Hmm. Famous Black woman. That's a good question. I'm trying to think. What I like. Ooh, you know who? I have to find her. Sorry. There's this other lady. I remember seeing this years ago. And remember, again, I was a teen mom, so this really resonated with
Mm-hmm.
me. He was on a TV show talking about how she didn't even have enough money to buy Pampers for her son.
Oh,
And she had to wrap him in plastic. What
oh,
is her
baby.
name? And I actually came across her on TikTok recently. I have to find her now. Just very inspirational.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
a
Okay,
speaker.
cool. So, could you mention three milestones that you are proudest of so far at Bask and Lather?
Definitely. So one of our biggest milestones is, and which we've still withheld this since 2023, we've held two top, now three, but two top sellers in their category on the entire TikTok shop. So we were early
Nice.
adapters of TikTok shop and we really dominated. So we have the number one best-selling edge control and we have the number one most sold hair growth oil on the platform. And now we also have the number one sold hair grease slash balm, which is our
Nice.
stimulating scalp and hair balm. Secondly, I would say we just won a D2C growth award at our fulfillment center. So they have millions of square feet
Hmm.
of fulfillment centers, and we were their number one based on growth. We had
Wow,
691% growth based on the number from 2023 to 2024.
amazing. And a third one?
A third one is, we've just recently reached almost 600,000 orders on Shopify.
Wow, man, that's that's really incredible. Um, how would you advise an aspiring beauty founder to go about getting started?
You just start. I feel that anything that you have to think too much about, like recently I was listening to something, may have been like an Instagram reel, and the person was saying, oh, you need to have a business plan and do this and do that. You don't. I think when you're in alignment with what it is that you're supposed to be doing, you figure it out along the way, the resources will be provided to you, and you just do it and you go with the flow and you learn as you go.
Any influential people in your life that you would credit with your spirit, your go-getter spirit?
My mother. My mother is, was is a very, very hardworking person. She had me. She was a single mom. She worked two jobs while she was getting her master's degree. And she just is a good, same go-getter, hardworking, like I remember when I was younger, we would drive around nice communities with big houses, right? And just
Mm,
go to open houses and then she got her nice big beautiful house well before even Bask and Lather was started, and now I have my nice big beautiful house, right? Sometimes seeing is believing.
yeah, very true. And is there anything else that you would like to touch on that maybe we didn't speak about?
I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think so. And that is all from me this time around. By the way, the famous Black woman that Shaina would invite to dinner tonight is motivational speaker Lisa Nichols. Thank you for your inspirational story, Shaina, and for sharing your go-getter spirit with us. If you'd like to learn more about Bask and Lather, I've also linked their website and socials in the show notes. While you're there, please hit share and send it to a friend. As always, I thank you for being part of this Shades and Layers journey. I'm Gudrun Skosana Richie, and until next time, please do take good care.